Hey, Bible evidence and proof, is it out there? And if it is, do we believe it? Sometimes that stuff gets tampered with and tainted and rendered false. You never quite know for sure. Tampered with. Yeah, like when you're at a restaurant and you ordered your food and then you send it back with a big attitude. Big attitude, you make like a scene because your steak isn't quite pink enough for you. So does it come back tampered with? Yeah, you better believe it might. And probably is, and would, and did. Tampered with because the chef just spit on your food to teach you some manners. Yeah, you can't throw an attitude in the middle of a restaurant and make a scene. Oh, you'll pay a price for that. Yeah, you will. So, evidence of the Bible has absolutely been collected over the years, studied, tested by scientists, running experiments that we don't have any idea how they do it, but they do. Archaeologists over time dug up, man, my English sometimes, dug up pottery, jewelry, fossils, and bones, and these relics are good for business. Yeah, whether they're authentic or not, it doesn't matter sometimes because it increases tourism. Oh, yeah, they call them pilgrims sometimes. Pilgrims come to visit the site, to witness, and to take pictures. People travel all over the world to look at these types of relics that are out there, especially in Jerusalem, the Middle East, for instance. And you can see why. If somebody had the kneecaps of Christopher Columbus, the hotels and restaurants would be packed for miles. That's just the way it is. Human beings like that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at biblical remnants and artifacts. How about those words? Remnants and artifacts. Like Noah's Ark, for instance. People claim they found Noah's Ark, or at least wood from that ark in Iran, and I guess that was proved to be false, not true, frauds. But evidently, the latest was in Turkey that they found wood claiming to be from the ark. Supposedly they did test, I'm assuming they did carbon-14, that very renowned authenticity test on what year it came from. But evidently in Turkey they found beams from the boat. And they found them on top of a mountain where there were volcanoes. Did I say that? What? I got to slap. Come on, get your mouth working. Volcanoes. And you wonder sometimes if Noah's Ark could survive the elements with those volcanoes and the weather and everything else under the sun. You would think that they would strip down that boat and build houses because perhaps after the flood there was a shortage of good wood, for instance. But you never know. These are things that you have to investigate if you're in the mood and decide for yourself. We also have Sodom and Gomorrah. That place burned up, and scientists once again take soil samples and they test the sulfur and test the ratios of elements in that soil to determine the burning that took place in past years. And evidently, again, they found that there was an abnormal percentage of sulfur in the soil, among other things. And then you got the Red Sea. Evidently, once again, there was a chariot wheel found in the Red Sea. And you would think you would find thousands of weapons and armor and all kinds of things and bones. But all that stuff, including bones, that deteriorates, doesn't it? Bones, that depends on the temperature and how dry things are, the humidity. Bones can last hundreds of years and thousands of years. Bones, when I had a dog, he gnawed on the bone, chewed on it. He loved that bone. That lasted about a week. So, you never know for sure how long these things can last because everything corrodes and vanishes like dead flies on your windowsill. Or at least I think they corrode and vanish. I never bother to clean them up. I figure the spiders will get them or something. So all these things you got to take into consideration. There's a lot of variables as to whether it's real or fake. There's some gray area there, some uncertainty area there. And then you got the Dead Sea Scrolls, which I'll get to after this caller. Who's this?
Oh, Robert, you're stealing your own thunder. You were going to introduce your topic, and I was first to call, so I'll wait to have you introduce your secret topic today.
Yeah, I emailed you what we were going to talk about. I let the cat out of the bag.
Well,
but I'm not there yet. So maybe you can hold on until I get through.
I'll wait for you. I'll be first in line.
All right. He's an aggressive sort. The board guy might extract that aggressive word for annoying, but either way, we like Ron. He always has good things to say. You got to give him that. Board guy, you going to give him that? He kind of agrees. All right, the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were found in the mountains of Qumran, if I'm saying that word right. I can't say regular words right, let alone words thousands of years ago in the Bible. Qumran. And the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in the 1900s, and a lot of things happened in the 1900s. I can't think of anything at the moment, but a lot of action in the 1900s, like the wars, for instance. Horrible killing. But the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in Qumran, and I guess there was a community there called the Sons of Light. And this area in Qumran was kind of like a leisure resort type of setup from what they investigated. Kind of like an R&R for dignitaries. There were plenty of bathing pool areas. I wonder if they had diving boards. And I don't believe any were uncovered. They could have had them. Maybe they were destroyed over time. Diving boards. Can you imagine like King Tut doing a backflip with his robes on? Yeah, that's the ticket. So these things, the scrolls, they were found in these clay jars, sealed hermetically. Sealed, by the way. Do we know what hermetically means? That's supposedly, I guess, airtight. That Gong Show guy used to talk about that. When he brought out the winner, it was written down in like an envelope, and he would always say it was hermetically sealed in a mayonnaise jar. Remember that? The Gong Show. But these things were sealed, so they were preserved over time. And what the scrolls told us was nothing earth-shattering. I guess a third of them were Old Testament writings, a third were commentary on those writings, and a third were the rules and regulations of the society of the day. But the Dead Sea Scrolls were and are the oldest biblical manuscript, over 2,000 years, written in Aramaic and Hebrew. Look at all this information I'm giving you. Woo! And it reads from right to left, like in England, they drive on the other side of the road, kind of confusing. And they used a carbon-based ink, whatever that is. And it was written on papyrus and animal skin. Papyrus. Board guy, do you know what papyrus is? I like saying that word papyrus. Let's say it together, everybody. Papyrus. I wish my lounge chair was made of papyrus. Or one of my three-piece suits. Papyrus. Loving that thing. Don't know what it is. But as I said, the scrolls are a beautiful thing. They verify the truth is what they do. Nothing earth-shattering in them, but they verify the truth. And that's a beautiful thing. And now, of course, you got what Ron is evidently waiting for is the Shroud of Turin. And Turin is a city in Italy. And Stu, many weeks or months ago, called about this shroud. So I'm hoping he calls. I haven't heard from Stu in a while. I hope everything's okay. But it'd be nice for you to give me a buzz, man. I miss that deep Texas voice of yours. All right, we might as well get going with Ron. What's up, Ron? Go ahead.
Robert,
floor is yours.
Robert, good morning.
For like 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Thanks for your generosity. And this, Robert, this is not a quiz. Have you ever seen Clint Eastwood's movie, Gran Torino?
I'm not familiar with the name. I may have seen it. I've seen a lot of his stuff.
The name Torino, okay, it's named after a car, Gran Torino, a Ford sedan.
All right, okay.
Torino is the Italian name of Turin. So there's our connection there. Turin, Italy, where Fiat cars are made, and
All right. A little unnecessary background. A little too much information. 2MF or 2MI, TMI. That's it. Too much information. But go ahead.
I'd like to focus on gospel evidences of the shroud, and then mysterious facts that science.
All right. You don't have to tell me what you're about to do. Just do it.
Okay, in Matthew 27, Joseph of Arimathea, it says, the good book says, wrapped Jesus' body in clean linen and laid him in a new tomb. And then a few verses later, an angel rolled back the stone, and the angel's clothing was white as snow. So we see that there's an evidence of a burial cloth in actually all the four Gospels. And there are these angels who keep appearing. Sometimes it's one angel, sometimes it's two.
Yes, it's definitely legitimate. The shroud is legitimate in the book. Go.
And then also the other clue is that the angels appear in dazzling white. So that gives some kind of significance. Well, how about this shroud? That turned dazzling light? Was there some kind of, effect of light on the shroud? And there's another clue in John's Gospel.
Clue? Who was that detective? Detective Clouseau? Is that who you are this morning?
You're talking about the Pink Panther.
Yeah, that's it. All right, continue with your clues.
You're mixing metaphors. In Luke's Gospel, it says that Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, who were both wealthy men and members of the Sanhedrin, that they buried him in a tomb, and they laid him in cloths. And then the two men again showed up as angels. And when Peter showed up, he bent down into the tomb, and he saw the burial cloth, but the one wrapped around his face was in a different.
All right, there was definitely a long shroud, linen cloth, and there was a head cloth. I agree. Continue.
No, well, you're miscounting, because he said the gospel says there were burial cloths, and then the other cloth around the face was in a separate place. Okay, that's at least three cloths, and I won't name them because this will confuse you. But there are two other cloths.
All right, let's get past the cloth. Continue to your next point. I'm getting bored.
Oh my God, this is
blah 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 blah.
There you go. If the board guy plays that, you know you're on thin ice, pal.
Thin ice. Well, that's what. Like, all right. So the shroud. The shroud is all these different other cloths, that have the image of Jesus.
All right, but is it real or fake?
Well, the cloth of Montepallo. Look it up. Look up that's supposedly the veil of Veronica.
Are you wearing any veils right now?
Yeah, just the veil of insults on when I'm trying to bring across the.
And that Veronica thing, I got to tell you, I, as a kid, believed in Veronica, but I look in the book for it. There's no mention of Veronica wiping the face of Jesus.
No, what it mentions in Luke 23, women on the way to the cross lamented and wept for Jesus, and he said, weep for yourself.
I hear nothing about the cloth. Hey, you're going to have to hold on. I'll keep you on the line, but we need a break.
Yeehaw! It's party time with Don't Bring Up God, Sundays 8 to 9 on WAEB.
And we need you to show up by calling 610-720-7900.
Whether you're eating breakfast or still in bed, getting ready for church or to clean out the garage. Whether you're taking out the dog or just scratching your butt, it don't matter.
Tell us what is rolling around inside that big head of yours.
Big only because you have so many brains inside. Yeah, that's it.
So call us live at 610-720-7900.
Man, what's not happening at Relic Hunter Firing Line? Where do I begin? Rotating every month, we got for the more advanced shooters Tactical Night, where you got a walking course on the open range floor with different targets and shooting stations. We also got a move and shoot night concentrating on movement forward and back and drawing from your holster. To sign up, call 610-440-1911. Relic Hunter Firing Line also has a new shooter class teaching you fundamentals and good shooting habits. Relic Hunter also has the NRA Basic Pistol 6-hour course, and guess what? Free lunch. Last but not least, we have the all-important Ladies' Night. Women have absolutely no reason to be intimidated. Come out to learn, shoot, and have fun with one of the best female instructors in the Lehigh Valley. So call Relic Hunter Firing Line today at 610-440-1911.
What can you get at King Cone? How about everything? We have Nelson's and Livy's ice cream, homemade waffle cones, ice cream cakes, banana splits, milkshakes, and plenty of indoor seating. Come drop by and treat yourself, family, and friends at King Cone. Doors open at 12 noon, 7 days a week. That's King Cone at the corner of MacArthur Road and Route 329 in Whitehall. Call at 610-261-1935.
Yeah, we're talking about the Shroud of Turin. Turin, I guess it's in Italy. And it brings a lot of curiosity and amazement to the table, this shroud thing. Very much so. It's kind of like a magic trick. Where did that rabbit go? How did he know it was the ace of clubs? It's very intriguing to say the least. Now, Ron, I'm going to keep you on, and I'm going to get back to you, but we have another call. Who's this? Yeah, you're on. What's up? Come on, man. Let's roll.
Well, are you going to let me speak as long as you have Mr. Schegner? Or?
Yeah, he begged me to give him more time, so I gave him more time. So,
well, maybe we can have a little debate right now over relics. The Shroud of Turin and all of the rest of these.
Well, we kind of are, aren't we?
Well, if you want to keep me on the line, I'll gladly debate it.
No, I need a break from the debates. Maybe in another 3 years. Go ahead, go on with your point.
Well, Rob, you mentioned King Tut, and when they found King Tut's tomb in 1922, that doesn't mean that the gods that King Tut believed in are real. And, you can say the same thing about Judeo-Christianity or any of the other religions. Now, as far as the Shroud of Turin and all of these
King Tut was a big, heavy man, right? So I don't think he could I'm doubtful he could do that backflip off the diving board with his robes, no less.
It's so dry in Egypt that it's a natural preservative. The Egyptians used to...
People stand in line to see the boy King. King Tut. King Tut. How'd you get so funky?
Yeah, by Steve Martin. He was the king years ago. Hey, Walt, can you do a backflip off the diving board?
We're going to play games.
We're going to play games. Now, can you do a backflip off the diving board?
Rob, please let me speak.
All right, go ahead. Wow, he put me in my place, I guess. You're on thin ice, pal, but go ahead.
Well, as far as the Shroud of Turin goes, Rob, anybody that has taken a good college-level art history course, I think Bobby mentioned he majored in art history. Bobby will tell you that.
Didn't I tell you about Bobby Gunther Walsh, who's a great man and does a great show, not to bring him up?
Well, Bobby will tell you that.
Well, he never listens, ever.
When you look at I had art history.
How many times are you going to say Bobby?
And I aced the course. So, but when Rob, when you look at the image on the Shroud of Turin, it looks like a typical stiff-stayed Gothic image. It's a pre-Renaissance image. The two great, if I recall, the two great painters of Gothic images were Giotto and Cimabue. And I think one of the researchers that looked at the Shroud of Turin...
Cimabue? That's like Baba Booey on the Howard Stern show? Baba Booey. Go ahead.
I think one of the researchers that examined the Shroud of Turin concluded that it's a blood painting. It was painted in blood, and then it was subjected to some sort of heat. They theorized that it may have been wrapped around a hot statue.
Okay, so Walt, you definitely believe that it is fraudulent.
Well, it's obviously a fake, and by today's standards, it's a laughable fake. The image looks like it looks like a bearded lurch from the Addams Family.
Nah, that's pretty good. Pretty creative, actually.
I mean, or Frankenstein. It looks like Boris Karloff.
All right.
Got that long. It's a long, stiff-stayed face.
Okay, you made your point. You're kind of goofing off. Are we going to be serious, or are you going to let me talk, Walt?
Well, Rob,
All right, thank you. We got a million things to get to. Thank you for your commentary. I very much appreciate it as usual. Now, this Shroud of Turin that we're talking about, it's a long cloth that wrapped around Jesus' body after the crucifixion, from head to toe, front and back. The book says, then having bought a linen shroud, Joseph took him down, wrapped him in the linen, and laid him in a tomb which had been cut out of rock. And an image resulted. And how and why did it result? How did it get there? Plenty of people have been wrapped in linen who died and never left an image. It just doesn't happen. And as Ron said, there is a head towel. A head towel also existed because it was customary for the Romans after a crucifixion to put on a covering of sorts in the form of a head towel over the head to cover the face of the deceased. Now, when the apostles and Peter were entering the tomb, the book says he observed the wrappings on the ground and saw the piece of cloth which had covered the head not lying with the wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Rolled up. You know how it used to be in school when you rolled up like spitballs and you got your pen and took out the ink cartridge or whatever you call it, and then you spat spitballs in class. I never did that. I thought it was kind of gross. So anyway, the head towel and the shroud definitely existed because the Bible is the ultimate proof. Not a smooth-talking snake oil salesman or a smooth-talking snake oil preacher. Now, the Bible is the proof. Now, before we get back to Ron, who's waiting patiently, I told him I'd give him more time, and I'm happy to do it. I don't know about happy is the right word. But this Veronica thing. Veronica, evidently in some religions, believe that Veronica took a face towel and supposedly wiped the face of Jesus on the way to the cross, and an image was left. Now, Catholicism believes that the Vatican displays this shroud once a year, but the Bible makes no mention of it. And no mention of that event. I don't know if there's a Veronica in the entire Bible. And I was disappointed to read that because I grew up believing that it was true. And I wanted it to be true. And I love the name Veronica. Veronica, it's like the name Ginger of Gilligan's Island. Veronica, Ginger. It sounds so friendly and inviting and happy. You figure anything out of the mouth of Veronica and Ginger has to be honest and true. Yeah, but not this. No, I'm sorry to say. To me, it sounds more like a tourism type of prop, a marketing tool. And as I said, at first I heard it and it sparked my interest. I was excited that this shroud, that this image on the little towel existed. But it's not in the Bible. And when I realized it wasn't in the Bible, that spark fizzled out like bad fireworks. I mean, I was excited at first, and then I got sad. I was excited all up, and then I realized it was a dud. A dud. That's something my wife calls me, a dud, compared to when we first met and married. I can't disagree. All right. Okay, let's get to the new call, and then we're going to get to Ron. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Okay, we got callers left and right, Rudy. Let's try to make this a little bit concise.
Okay, Ron, good morning. I want to say good morning to all, to Joe, to everybody.
We're in the middle of a battlefield. We got no time for good mornings. But go ahead.
Listen, what I'm going to tell you here, look, no matter what you do, Robert, you're always going to find, the...
opposition.
Yes, and, this Discovery Channel thing when they put the episode about Jesus' shroud. You see, they had like a couple of scientists. They were like 100% accurate and agrees. Like there's something in the blood says that it's more like it's some kind of has some kind of nuclear or whatever that's really activated more than any other human being blood, whatever, you know.
Yeah, there's pro and cons to the blood again.
Yeah, you remember that thing they were talking about, that this blood was really special, and they haven't seen any blood like this. And you see the other scientists trying to debunk it, and they're saying there's another piece of cloth in it that supposedly it got fixed with.
Yes.
And, you know, so no matter what you do, that you're going to find somebody going to try to debunk your story.
Absolutely. I accept
Agree.
that. I expect
and,
it.
But the whole thing is, remember when Jesus came 2,000 years ago, and they saw what he did. They saw the miracles, and they still didn't believe him. So you think now, with all these people trying to debunk the Bible, they're going to let you have it? Come on.
I know what you're saying, but that's part of the territory. There's always going to be a contrary view, and we have to decide what we believe and what we don't, according to the book.
But I'm not sure how important is it to believe in these things, because...
Oh, yeah, you can ignore it if you choose. There's no big deal. It's all about the Bible anyway.
Look, there's a lot of saints, man, and there's a lot of saints in Lebanon, and their body's still holding until today, after 2,000 years and all of that, and 2,000 years, 100 years, 50 years, 1,600 years, all over the... Europe and the Middle East until today, they still have their stuff, and why? And they want to debunk everything, man. They want to make, that's what they say, that's the devil work, They want to make you doubt everything you believe in.
All right, you're the man, Rudy. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. We listen. Bye-bye.
And Ron, I promise after the break we will get to you.
It's City Line Auto Sales for the best in domestic and foreign used cars. They are reliable and honest with the best deals around and a no-pressure atmosphere. City Line Auto Sales is located at 950 North 7th Street in Allentown, just across the bridge and south of the old Lehigh Valley Dairy. Stop by for a test drive Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Phone City Line Auto Sales at 484-350-3575. Mention this commercial and receive a complimentary full tank of gas with purchase.
Hey, this is Robert from Don't Bring Up God. I first want to thank Relic Hunter Firing Line for sponsoring our show and believing in what we do. I never thought I would buy a gun, but I did. I walked into Relic Hunter Firing Line knowing nothing about firearms, but that all changed. Relic Hunter Firing Line gave me safety and gun knowledge and taught me gun discipline at their on-site training class. I bought a .357 Magnum and now practice at the range all the time with their basic membership plan. Relic Hunter Firing Line is off of 145 in North Whitehall. Their phone number is 610-440-1911. Opening every day at 10. So whether you're a man or a woman, a beginner or longtime gun owner, shoot for hunting or sport, or for home and self-defense, Relic Hunter Firing Line is #1 in the Lehigh Valley. See you there.
Yeehaw! It's party time with Don't Bring Up God, Sundays 8 to 9 on WAEB.
And we need you to show up by calling 610-720-7900.
Whether you're eating breakfast or still in bed, getting ready for church or to clean out the garage. Whether you're taking out the dog or just scratching your butt, it don't matter.
Tell us what is rolling around inside that big head of yours.
Big only because you have so many brains inside. Yeah, that's it.
So call us live at 610-720-7900.
So back to this Shroud of Turin. That is the big enchilada when you're talking about relics. Enchilada. What is that anyway? Enchilada. Whatever it is, I'm not really fond of it. My intestines don't quite agree with that mixture of ingredients. But scientists describe the Shroud of Turin as a photographic negative, a three-dimensional X-ray, and a hologram. Now, I don't know exactly what all that means, but it sounds pretty impressive to me. The Shroud has the properties of each of those things. And the Shroud of Turin can't be explained or duplicated by modern science. How did they do it 2,000 years ago? Nobody knows for sure. But it definitely, Walt, it definitely wasn't painted on or drawn on. There was no absorption there in the linen cloth. Like when you drop an ice cream cone on your shirt and the shirt quickly absorbs and stains. There was none of that. There was no penetrating pigment. The image appeared just on the very surface of the cloth, a superficial projection of sorts. And if you actually turn the shroud over, you can't see anything. There's no evidence because it's so thin of an image. And that alone is very unusual, very, very strange. To give you an idea of the thickness of the image of Jesus on the cloth, on the linen cloth, well, there's 200 fibers of thickness, and the image is just on one of those fibers. So it's on one, and 199 fibers are untouched. It didn't seep through. The image is also 1/100th of the thickness of a strand of hair. Now, there hasn't been anything like this, let alone so many years ago. All right, I'm going to bring Ron back in cautiously. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, to finish up, Robert, and another mystery and fact, along with some other scientific facts, is that tomorrow is the 120th anniversary of the first photographing of the shroud, May 28th, 1898. It's kind of interesting you chose today, the eve of this anniversary of the first photographing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that.
And I know Walt is still listening, and this is Clint Eastwood, Ron. And Walt, I'm here to make your day because, as usual, you don't know what you're talking about. For instance, King Tut, which is off today's topic, was a little shorty. And so to finish...
Was he heavy?
Well, no, he wasn't heavy. He was your brother.
He was on Batman. The villain, King Tut. He was a big fat guy.
I just remember the Joker, and I think he used to call your show on Sunday mornings and say, "Well, Robert." But anyway, to finish up on the shroud, now you're becoming a shroud scholar. Now you already know that it's a negative image. How did that happen? How did a negative image happen? The dried blood, which Walt didn't know anything he was talking about, and the wounds are consistent. The wounds on the shroud are consistent with the scourging of a crucified man and a crowning of thorns with sharp sharp thorns in his skull. There was a spectrograph. In the last 50 years, all sorts of tests have been done on the shroud. A spectrograph.
A spectrograph. Do they have that in the Batcave? That seems like something that would be in there.
Yeah, no, Alfred used to run that.
All right.
You know, so, anyway, this identified, I guess this was a practice, in burials at that time. 2 Roman coins were found and spectrographed on the image of the shroud, and they were coins dating to the 1st century of Rome. How did they end up there? The pollen. This is like really, really key. The pollen was examined. There are like 28 different strains of pollen that are on the shroud. The majority of them, like 24 of them, are all from Palestine and around Jerusalem from the 1st century. How did they get?
All right, that's all good info, Ron. Now I'm going to ask you, do you want to stay on the line or you have more info?
I just have a couple more points.
All right, stay on the line and we're going to get back to you, okay? Yeah. Ron came prepared today. And the shroud, you got to realize there were a lot of fake shrouds. I don't know about a lot, but there were definitely some fake shrouds out there. And they were quickly uncovered as frauds and fake. Fake, like fake signatures or coins or fake boobs. Nobody likes fake. You can't beat the authentic originals. We all know that. And the scientists, once again, have performed endless experiments and computer analysis on the shroud. The plural of analysis, it's not analysises, it's analyses. Instead of SIS, it's SES. Did you know that out there? Board guy, did you know that? Is that pertinent information that you need to know? You can't sleep at night unless you know what I just said. So it's analysis, singular, analyses, plural. There you go. Learn something new every day.
Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, you love that button, don't you? It's pretty pertinent and accurate most of the time, especially when it's on me, evidently. But endless experiments and computer analyses on the shroud was conducted. And essentially what it does, it uncovers the history of the crucifixion. A lot of things of what Ron said are true. The shroud verifies the truth, unlike the unverified dossier. Yeah, I'm bringing that back, dossier. If I hear that word one more time, my head's going to explode. The Hannity, 16 times a show. Dossier, unverified dossier. I think I hurt my throat just then. All right, anyway, back to the blood stains that Ron were talking about. And, people say they're authentic and some people say they're not. We all know that. That's a given. But I tend to believe them, that the blood stains of the Shroud of Turin were on the hands, feet, the side, the head. 30 puncture wounds in the head from that crown of thorns that Ron was also talking about and brought up. And they traced those specific thorns through experiments once again to the specific time and place of the crucifixion. Those big jagged thorns, coming from a particular plant, digging into the scalp of Jesus. That was nasty stuff. They weren't like little rose thorns. No, they were big and jagged and did a lot of damage. When I was buying roses all my life for the young ladies, especially my wonderful wife. You listening, wonderful wife? Rose thorns. You could buy them with or without those thorns. I thought they grew them that way. Board guy. The roses, sometimes they have thorns, sometimes they don't. Did you think they grew them that way or they actually clipped them? You knew that? No. He shakes his head, no. Yeah, they clipped these thorns on the rose plants, and that's what my wife told me. They clipped them. You don't grow them one way or the other. They clip them sort of like your toenails. Toenails, when you get older, you need a hacksaw to cut them. Yeah, they get thicker and stronger, a little more yellowish. You guys know what I'm talking about. Don't think it's just me. But the blood was all over the place. The blood on the shroud, it was on the back from the Roman scourging, the whipping, the beatings, the lashings, all consistent with the crucifixion. And the blood spatterings are key. To me, they are spatterings. When you're a little kid riding your bike through a mud puddle and you're spattered with mud all over your face and clothes. Or when you eat spaghetti with a thick sauce, by the time you're done, the spaghetti sauce is all over your shirt, spattered all over. It doesn't come out either, I don't think. Yeah, my wife loves when I do that kind of thing. All right, let's get to that other call. Who's this?
Can I say one more thing?
Yes. Go.
Well, now, if Christ shed every drop of his blood to redeem mankind, where did all the blood come from on the Shroud of Turin, especially since that when they took Christ down from the cross, supposedly they washed his body?
Who said that?
So where did all of this blood
Wait a minute,
come
who
from
said they
that's on
washed his body? Did they wash his body?
Well, I think that's what the Bible says. That was a standard procedure. Before burial, that was a standard,
Yeah, but you're stretching to make that point. It sounds a little bogus. It's his blood. He died his blood.
If Christ shed every drop of his blood, like I said, they said when the Roman soldier thrust his lance into Christ's side, there was no more blood in the body, just water came out.
Right, but there's always blood. There's remnants.
Where does all of this blood that made up the image on the Shroud of Turin come from?
Look,
then?
Walt, if I punch you in the face and you start bleeding, and I put a towel up there, the blood's going to get on the towel, even if it is later from that moment that I punched you in the face. It's just remnants of the blood. You're trying to stretch it to make a point. I don't see it.
Like I say, when you look at the image, it's anybody that's ever a student of art history. It's obviously a Gothic. It's a pre-Renaissance Gothic image.
All right. Well, we're going to do our own. We're going to do our own experiment. We're going to bring you in here, and we're going to wrap you in a shroud. We're going to wrap you in some long cloth and see what happens over time.
During the Renaissance, the artist depicted the human form much more naturally. That's what when you look at the Sistine Chapel ceiling, Michelangelo, Titian, Raphael. The images are depicted, the body is much more natural looking.
Thank you, Walt, for your wisdom. I'll talk to you next week. And the Shroud of Turin, by the way, it was given a carbon 14th, a carbon 14 dating experiment of sorts. And it was found to be in 1200s to 1300s. That's what they dated the shroud to be, rendering the shroud a fake. But then as it turns out, the sample corner piece that they took it from, that they tested from, apparently was damaged, replaced, and repaired. Actually damaged, repaired, and then replaced. So you can throw out those results. They detected cotton on a linen cloth, only in that little corner, nowhere else on the shroud. So that was in error. I mean, the results were contaminated, like OJ's DNA, contaminated. Although OJ's DNA was not. Nah. I mean, they matched his DNA exactly. If it was contaminated, the results would be haywire. They wouldn't make sense. You couldn't rule out a buffalo killing those two people if it was contaminated. Okay, we got a caller other than Ron. Hold on, Ron. I'll get to you again. Who do we got?
Joe, morning.
Hey, Joe. What's up?
Yeah, just quickly, I mean, that claim that Walt's making, it does not say Christ shed all of his blood. That's not what the text says.
Does it say they washed the body?
Well, they prepared it for burial, and that was traditional for that time, yes.
So what about that? If they washed the body and washed all the blood?
Well, it's still going to exude out. If you have a wound, it still exudes fluids and things like that.
Okay, there's always traces of blood if you're bleeding.
Yeah, they can't stop that. And in Hebrews, it says Christ presented himself and the blood as an offering for sins to God the Father. So anyway, but here's the interesting part. What don't you find with the Shroud of Turin? The body. Just, King Tut's body was found, all that. The linchpin, the keystone of the entire Christian salvation and the Gospels is the resurrection of Christ. You don't see the body.
That is very true, and we can't lose sight of that, and that is the most important thing. I'm going to have to let you go early today. See, I even forgot your name. Sorry. The Caboose, Joe. I got to let you go today. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you for that. For the main point of the whole shroud thing is that the body was not in the tomb. Thank you. Let's go to this other call. Who's this? All right. Hello. Who's this?
Hi, this is Jim.
From last week?
No, I'm a new Jim.
Okay, I like new Jim. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm calling in response to Walt also. He was saying a couple things that really are not true. One is that that Jesus had to have all of his blood drained out in order to be our sacrifice. That's really not the case. All it took was the first drop. That was the only thing it took. All of the scourging and everything that Jesus withstood is nothing compared to the load he was carrying on his back, which was our sin. That was the real thing that he took to the cross. The rest is just to make us feel better, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Walt was taking it way too literal and stretching to make a point.
Yeah, and the other thing is, he said when they put a spear in his side, that water came out. Actually, it was blood and water. But the thing is, what that pointed out was that there's an area around the heart called the pericardium. Para meaning outside, and cardium meaning heart, and that's when you undergo the stress that Jesus was undergoing, that fills up with water. And so when they punctured him, the blood and water came out. And that also is a sign that he was dead because the body fluids separate after death.
Okay,
so,
thank you, Jim. I very much appreciate that. Jim, please call again, okay? I got to cut you a little short today, okay?
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, see ya.
You need to see it to believe it. Relic Hunter Firing Line has a new awesome 12-lane indoor gun range, rentals, and the largest selection of firearms for purchase. Also available are training classes for both men and women, along with several membership plans to suit your specific needs. Relic Hunter Firing Line is located off Route 145 in North Whitehall. Give them a call at 610-440-1911. Their friendly and helpful service is available to you 7 days a week as Relic Hunter Firing Line opens every day at 10 a.m. And if you're looking to purchase firearms, you can actually try before you buy. Shoot the gun first in the 12-lane indoor range and then decide. So that's Relic Hunter Firing Line off Route 145 in North Whitehall. Their phone is 610-440-1911 or visit them at their website, relichunter.com. Tell them Robert from Don't Bring Up God sent you.
What can you get at King Cone? How about everything? We have Nelson's and Livy's ice cream, homemade waffle cones, ice cream cakes, banana splits, milkshakes, and plenty of indoor seating. Come drop by and treat yourself, family, and friends at King Cone. Doors open at 12 noon, 7 days a week. That's King Cone at the corner of MacArthur Road and Route 329 in Whitehall. Call at 610-261-1935.
It's City Line Auto Sales for the best in domestic and foreign used cars. They are reliable and honest with the best deals around and a no-pressure atmosphere. City Line Auto Sales is located at 950 North 7th Street in Allentown, just across the bridge and south of the old Lehigh Valley Dairy. Stop by for a test drive Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Phone City Line Auto Sales at 484-350-3575. Mention this commercial and receive a complimentary full tank of gas with purchase.
Okay, I'm going to get this in if it kills me. Here we go. Hold on. The $1 million question is, how did the image get on the shroud? There's no natural phenomenon answer, but there is a supernatural explanation. Only thing that could have projected Jesus' image on the linen cloth would be an explosion of some kind, of a huge split-second energy force, like the atomic bomb in Japan, where extreme force of light and heat caused similar shadowy images of people on cement sidewalks and walls that they happened to be walking near at the time the bomb exploded. The bomb bleached. And by the way, bleach, Clorox, that smell, that stink. I could get a headache from that. Do they put that in smelling salt? I mean, Clorox bleach when you do the wash. They use it to bring back boxers knocked out. I mean, that can wake up the dead. But anyway, the bomb blast bleached the wall except for the area blocked by the body, causing a darkened image on the wall. And that is similar what happened at the resurrection. When Jesus' body went from dead to life, an explosion of light was released, emitting outward from Jesus' body onto the linen cloth, which resulted in a projected image. It's a laser-like light, an ultraviolet light. And that ultraviolet light is actually present in our DNA molecules. I'll try to say it again. At the split second, Jesus' body came back to life. An intense light from his DNA was generated, causing an imprint of Jesus' body onto the linen cloth, a projected image emanating from the inside of the body of Jesus itself, radiating outward in all directions. That's what created the Shroud of Turin, a supernatural event of Jesus' resurrection. Not Leonardo da Vinci or some second-year art student who drew it. No. And scientists all agree about this ultraviolet light being present in our DNA. It's like a laser-like light. So, you believe it or not, hey, that's for you to decide. I'm not 100% sure on it. I'm not, but it's compelling evidence, and it makes sense to me. Okay, let's get to this other caller here. Who's this?
This is Thomas.
Thomas, from last week or not?
I don't know if I called last week or not.
We get a lot of Thomases. Have you called before?
I called before.
Okay,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
keep track of when, but
okay, go ahead.
2 Thessalonians 2:15. So then, brothers and sisters, stand firm and hold fast to the teachings we passed on to you, whether by word of mouth or by letter. Now, you don't believe that Veronica existed because she's not in the Bible. Well, what you're believing is unscriptural. Your unbelief is unscriptural.
Well, I'm not saying I believe 100%.
It says here that it says in the Bible that you're supposed to believe in things that were handed on by word of mouth, and you're not doing that. So
okay, but does that exclude
your lack of belief is unscriptural?
But Thomas, does that exclude everything else necessarily?
Well, you're supposed to believe what was handed on by the apostles,
which I do, absolutely. But this is something very unusual and is recorded in the Bible as real. Correct?
Oh, you mean the shroud?
Yeah, the shroud. I mean, at least it's in the book, unlike what Veronica did. The shroud is a piece recorded in the Bible, so it is legit.
Okay.
Now the question is the image. But no, I'm with you. I don't wake up and I don't stay up at night worrying about the shroud. I believe in the Bible. That's all I need, and that sounds like the same for you. Right?
Well, my faith doesn't hinge on the Shroud of Turin in the first place.
Exactly. Yes, I agree with that, and mine neither. I mean, I haven't thought about the shroud. I never do, except for this show.
But I know your time is very short here. We've only got about 10 seconds left. There's one other thing I wanted to bring up. I know somebody that went to a church around the area where the fairgrounds are back in the 60s and the 70s.
Okay.
And he has this interesting belief. He claims that this is what he was taught this is the way he was taught when he was brought up. Now, this guy by no way is anything close to being Catholic, by the way. I want to bring that up.
Okay,
first.
Could you please wrap it up because we are running out of time?
I'm interested in hearing from other people out there, from your listeners, who believe that the only thing that you have to believe is that God exists. I mean, I've heard of the doctrine.
No, that I disagree totally with that. That would
only have to believe that God exists, and then you can go and sin your brains out, sin your eyeballs out, and and you're going to go.
Hey, Thomas,
go to heaven when you die.
Thomas, please call again, and we'll discuss that. We're running out of time. Thank you for your call. Let's get the other call. You got 30 seconds, literally.
Hello.
Go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, it's NJ. Hey, real quickly.
30 seconds.
The body with the shroud, it was what was a precursor, the rapture. It's the rapture of Christ's body. Remember, the shroud and everything else was left like it was just evaporated. So that was the precursor of what's going to happen to us. It's the rapture.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. I apologize for cutting you.
No problem.
Ron, you got 10 seconds. Go.
That's all I need. The scientists identified the blood on the shroud from the AB group, which is the universal donor type of blood.
Thank you, Ron. All roads lead back to God, as we know, as I remind you. And Tyler, we love you, and we will see you again.
Second prize, you're either in it all the way or we just say goodbye. Open up, let me in.
The Lehigh Valley's news, traffic, and weather station. News Radio 790 WAEB. Allentown, Easton, Bethlehem.